great. Well, thank you guys for having me today, and I just commend you as a staff and administration for making this a priority for you and your teachers. I will say we're having more schools reach out to us for this information, so I think that's great as a community that we're coming together and realizing that this is an issue for our youth. So you're going to have to bear with me with this technology, I think. Let's see. I know there we go. Okay, it's big up there. That's all that matters. All right, so I am the Executive Director of the Kim Foundation, and we are a family foundation here in Omaha we focus on mental health and suicide prevention. And so we were started about 14 years ago by Larry and Kathy Courtnidge. We are housed at CNA Industries corporate headquarters on 137th and Dodge. So Larry owns CNA, and his daughter Kim, she had a lot of issues with mental health and had several diagnoses along the way, and they just as a family had a lot of concerns and issues with her treatment process, and she ultimately took her life when she was 24 years old. So at that time he vowed when he was able to give back in an impactful way, he was going to focus on this, help other families, and try and make the process easier. Our priorities now are to bridge the gaps for folks in the community with resources, try and fill some of those gaps, provide funding for organizations that do mental health programming and suicide prevention work. We also go out into the community and do a lot of education such as this, and doing presentations. We do them at schools, churches, companies, service groups, you name it. I think we have done them. So we feel like people are really hungry for the information again, and we just are encouraged by the number of people reaching out for it. I can't read the screen, so you're gonna have to bear with me while I turn around here. Okay, so we talked about this. It's a 501c3, and our granting process, just so you're aware, is for local 501c3, other 501c3s that also expand into Lincoln and focus on the programming aspect. And then I was asked today to come and talk a little bit about suicide prevention, but I wanted to start and kind of roll that back to depression, because oftentimes depression is what's going to lead to suicide in youth. With teens and youth, suicide is often a very impulsive act, and so there may not be the underlying mental illness, but most often they say that 90% of suicides can be traced back to an underlying mental illness. So we're going to start on the depression piece, and I just want to show you a couple videos that illustrate what it may look like in teens and some of the anxiety and depression that builds into this. And these clips are going to be from a program called More Than Sad that we'll talk about in a little bit.
This film will show how depression affected 4 teenagers. They each had different experiences, but what they had in common is that each one was changed by depression. It took away their self-confidence, and while they were depressed, none of them were enjoying their lives. Depression can cause you to have low energy, lose interest in things you used to enjoy. It can make it hard to get along with people. When you're depressed, it can be difficult to concentrate, to be positive, or to express how you're thinking and feeling. You might get irritated easily or find yourself criticizing other people or yourself. Depression that has not been treated can affect different people in different ways. Some depressed people may use alcohol or illegal drugs as a way to deal with depression. Others may become suicidal. If you recognize any signs of depression in yourself or a friend, please follow the advice at the end of this film. Remember, depression is an illness. It can be treated to change a sad, colorless, unhappy life into one with energy and enjoyment.
Are you sleeping? It's the middle of the day. Is everything all right?
Yeah, I'm just tired.
Your teacher, she said you've been missing school. And when you do show up, you often seem unprepared. Lana, that's so unlike you. What's going on? You've always been such a good student. Lana, what's the matter? Baby, can you talk to me? You want to get up? Come down, have something to eat with me?
Stop, just stop.
You know what? You need to snap out of it. Stop feeling sorry for yourself.
Sometimes parents don't know what to do or how to help when you're depressed. They may misread the situation and say or do things that aren't helpful. Usually it's out of concern or fear.
Hey, Ray. Congrats on student council, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yo, Ray, what time's the game on Saturday?
9 a.m. away game.
Dude, I hear coach is gonna start you.
Yeah, I know, he told me. I've been trying to stay cool about it.
Man, that history exam's gonna kill me tomorrow.
I know, I've been studying.
Yeah, you gotta worry.
Yeah, right.
Take my test from me, please.
I'll let you, man.
All right, man.
City Hospital Mental Health Clinic.
Hi, yeah, my name is Ray, and I'm a junior at Willis High.
Hi, Ray. What's going on?
I'm calling because I can't stop worrying about things that I don't need to worry about. I don't know, I felt weird and like something was wrong. I decided that I needed to speak to someone.
You're just gonna ditch me? And then they ditch me. They just ditch me. They leave me there, and I'm like, fine, I don't need you. Forget you guys. Go to hell.
And these guys are your friends?
Yeah. They don't get me. I mean, they can be total jerks sometimes. It's not just that. It's even at home, I feel like everyone's giving me a hard time, and I know I've been getting mad a lot, and I didn't used to be that way, and now I'm like that all the time, and it's just little things that make me lose it.
Well, why don't you tell me what has changed?
Jake easily loses his temper, especially if he's been drinking alcohol. His outbursts were causing his friends to turn away from him when he really wanted to be around them. Even though Jake knew drinking alcohol was illegal, he thought alcohol would make him feel better. But it didn't. It only made things worse. Losing your temper easily and more often, along with using alcohol to feel better, can be signs of depression.
Okay, so some of the symptoms of depression that you'll see within the videos and that you're probably seeing with some of your students are they're going to be withdrawing from activities that they normally took part in, with friends that they would normally, you'd see them in the halls with. They also will have low energy, be lethargic, and they talked about the alcohol and drug use within Jake in the last video. This is a sign, obviously for some high schoolers, you know, they're experimenting during this time and may be drinking, but just kind of watch for a change in pattern and severe swings either way. You'll hear them talking about maybe in their writing or artwork, illustrations of death or dying, feeling hopeless and worthless, and that they're a burden on folks or their parents or their friends. The anger, we talked about that. If they're lashing out verbally or physically, you may see them doing that in the hallways. Loss of appetite. This one's tricky because the appetite piece, again, this can be a warning sign of depression, but also anxiety and suicide. So it's all encompassing. And it's, again, teenagers are dealing with a lot. It's a huge transition age for them. So they may be eating too much, eating too little. You just kind of have to watch for a change in pattern. There's no formula for it to be watching for. Difficulty concentrating or poor memory. This is a big one for teenage students and often overlooked as, you know, they don't care or they're not focusing in your class or they're acting out. This can be a sign of depression for them. We talked about the loss of interest, feeling hopeless, appetite, the anxiousness, intense feelings that can be anxiety or depression, but also one sign that's overlooked most often are just the constant complaining of aches and pains or feeling sick to their stomach. These are things people will just be like, oh, you're trying to get out of class, or something else is going on with you. That's one of the most often overlooked symptoms of depression. Oh, the self-harm, that's a big one too. That can be cutting. Some students will be hitting themselves, banging their heads on walls, scratching, burning, with pencils, doing things in pens in their arms. This can lead to can be a sign of depression and can lead to suicidal tendencies. That's a big one to watch out for. And you can kind of watch for this in, are they wearing oversized and baggy clothing during warm times of the year? Are they having the mood swings with this? Are they covering up their bodies in ways that they didn't do before? So just kind of watch for some of those signs. With depression, it's important to watch for these warning signs. Sometimes people are like, well, they're teenagers. They're changing behaviors all the time. The key thing to watch for is, are these symptoms lasting for 2 weeks or longer? And is it a severe change in their previous behavior? So those are the two things to keep in mind. September, October, September, you may not know your students very well yet, but by October, November, you're getting a feel for them if you haven't had them in class before. So watch for some of those signs, and is it lasting for a 2-week period? Also, it's something that's going to be consistent over different areas of their life. You may only have them in class, and so you don't know them as well, but also watch for their friends' behavior in the hallways. If you're their coach, is this change in behavior overlapping several different areas of their life? Are you getting calls from their parents, emails concerned about how they're behaving, wondering how they're doing in class? So just something that would overlap in multiple areas. It's typically not just a reaction to a specific problem. Again, teenagers have a lot of issues going on. They are facing a lot of transition. So depression is not something that may just be triggered by a breakup or something that doesn't last. Again, the 2-week period is key to keep in mind. And then if depression is left untreated, it can lead to suicide. That is certainly not always the case, but it can lead to that. So we're going to move into that. Please feel free to ask questions if you have. Otherwise, we're going to open it up at the end for questions. So for risk factors of suicide, physical or sexual abuse in the youth, also death or other traumatic events in the family, persistent or serious family conflicts. They may be coming to you and not sleeping at home because there's a lot of fighting, or there's alcoholism in the home. So just kind of be watching for these things with students. They may not feel comfortable just coming right up to you and talking about this, or if these things are happening, but just kind of keep an eye on how they're reacting in class. Traumatic breakups. As a teenager, sometimes people think that this is the end of the world. I'm sure you guys have students coming into your classrooms talking about this. They can't see past tomorrow or next week or a year from now. And so they think this is kind of a be-all, end-all. And again, it's not going to be one breakup that's going to likely lead to suicide. It can be a compilation of events in their life, and this may just be the trigger for them. Trouble with the law, if they get caught drinking or skipping school, or hopefully something not more serious, but it can be. With drugs is another big one for teenagers. School failures or other major disappointments. If their grades are failing, if they're an athlete and they're being threatened with being suspended. Again, you and I can see that, okay, there is a way past that, but for them, if that's their identity, it's very difficult for them to see past that. Bullying, harassment, or victimization by other students. This can be online bullying, social media concerns, or bullying right within the hallways. And I think we were talking earlier, and we're not going to go to the entire social media topic because we could be here, I think, all day with that one. But you guys, I'm sure, have policies in place to keep an eye on that with your students. Prior suicide attempts, this is a big risk factor, and you may not know this unless the student opens up to it or it's in their file at school, but if you are aware of that information, that is certainly a key risk factor for someone to try again. Warning signs of suicide, a lot of these are going to be similar to what we talked about with depression. The eating too little or eating too much, the withdrawing from activities, giving away possessions, saying goodbye to families or friends. They may walk out of your classroom and be like, see you, Mrs. Nelson, I'm out of here, and say something that you may not catch till later and be like, oh my gosh, that, I should have taken that more seriously if it's something that they don't typically do. They're going to be feeling like they're trapped, or talking about feeling trapped and no way out, that these things are happening and kind of crushing them and piling on top of them. Increased alcohol and drug use, again, we talked about these, and a lot of these align with depression warning signs. The rage and uncontrolled anger, again, that's something that you may see in teenagers more often, but if it's something that's a change in their normal behavior, I can't say that enough. Just watch for a change in patterns. Some additional warning signs, we talked about the dramatic mood changes, unable to sleep or sleeping too much. If they're missing first, second, third period because they can't get out of bed, or they're coming to class and they're so tired that they can't even concentrate on what you're saying. Just kind of be keeping an eye on that. The anxiety and agitation we talked about. Expressing no reason to continue living. A lot of times people think that when students are saying things such as, I shouldn't even be here, I'm a huge pain to my parents or friends, they don't take that seriously. We hear so often from teachers and students that, they're just trying to get attention and they don't mean it, and so they don't take it seriously. We would encourage you to take it very, very seriously, even if it turns out that they're just saying that to draw attention, because you never know. It could be the one instance where they're not. So please take that seriously and connect them with the resources that they need. We talked about the rest of those. Getting help. The most effective way to prevent suicide is to know the warning signs to watch for and the risk factors. We do believe that suicide is a very preventable thing. Unfortunately, our community has seen an increase in suicides throughout the entire Omaha and Sarpy County area. And so we feel like educating folks, letting people know about the warning signs, what to watch for, and more importantly, knowing where to connect them once you realize there is an issue. So that's one way that we can prevent it, and just building rapport for you guys with your students on a daily basis. Make that you a trusted person for them to come to, because unfortunately not all of them have that at home. They don't feel like, don't feel comfortable with their parents or a family member. So you can serve as that advocate for that student. One thing too we always like to talk about with students, and if you ever hear of them talking about this, oftentimes they'll say, well, my friend told me that they were thinking about suicide, but they made me promise to keep it a secret. We hear this so many times from students. And so one thing just to encourage them is to not keep that a secret. Let them know, yes, maybe that friend is going to be mad at you for a little while, but guaranteed they probably will get over it. And what's more important, that you have other experiences with this friend later on down the road, or that you never have them in your life again. So, you can be that dramatic with them, and so encourage them not to keep it a secret, that they need to tell a trusted adult. And then one thing, if someone is suicidal, whether that be at school or you're hearing about something outside of school, that individual should not be left alone. You stay with them until the necessary resources can be reached. All right, so I wanted to get into some of the resources available to you as staff and in our community, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers as well. The Suicide Lifeline, this should be something, I would encourage you to have it in every classroom. I'm sure you guys have it in your guidance office and in your offices in different places throughout school, but it's 800-273-TALK, and that's a 24-hour-a-day lifeline, and it's a national program routed locally. So our call center is housed at Boys Town, and they're going to be, they'll be sent right to that, and so they'll know the local resources. They'll be able to talk them through that. That is a big one. And that one connects to your life, your voice. And oftentimes people don't feel comfortable calling. And so this is a new resource available in our area where they can text, do online chat, and do some different things that help with, because the youth and technology is a big piece for them. 911 is obviously always an option for you. If you feel like that individual is in immediate crisis, please don't hesitate to call 911, and they can come out and assess the scene and help that individual. One thing I would encourage you to kind of take note of, if you are calling 911 and you have someone either in your classroom or whatever your policy is where you go in the school, ask for what is called a CIT officer. So it's a crisis intervention trained officer, and they'll come out and they have special training in this area. The Yellow Ribbon Program, it's my understanding you guys have taken part in this, correct? Yes, okay. Do you continue to do it, or? Yes, go ahead. This is a big one. We see a lot of success with this in schools that take it seriously and do the training for both the students and the staff, because that's how it's effective within the schools, so that everyone is aware of what's going on with it. We did a big training in Lincoln last year, or January, I guess, with this, and had 700 folks from the community, both youth and parents, come to this. And we're going to do another one in the metro area this coming January. So you guys already are experts at it if you're doing it, so that's great. More Than Sad, that is a program that focuses on the depression and anxiety. The video clips that we watched are from that. That is a 1-hour curriculum, and there's a video for the students, but there's a video for the staff as well. So 2 separate ones, and so you look at it from both ways. It's a great one. I think the videos, we have a copy if you want to look at them for your school to purchase, and there's a whole programming and curriculum around that, but that's always one. And we feel like it's a little more up to date than some of the other programs. That's available through the American Federation of Suicide Prevention. We at the foundation are always a resource for you. We have teachers and counselors and families call us all the time, but it may not be suicide specific, but just wanting to know where to go in the community for resources, and we'll make that connection. We do have parents and teachers also that will call and say, I found a suicide note of my son's, what do I do? Or a student turned something in, what should I do? Who can I connect them with? So we're always there for you as well. We talked a little bit about the American Federation of Suicide Prevention, and I see a couple of you taking pictures of the slide. Please do, and I'm also going to leave a copy here at the school too, so that you'll have the resources. The LOST program, that's Local Outreach to Suicide Survivors. So this is structured as a post-prevention program, but it also targets prevention as well. So how that works is it's coordinated out of our office. It's a national program, but we've localized it to the Omaha metro area. And so it's a team-based model that it includes all peers. So someone who has lost a loved one to suicide, and then a clinician. And so we work with law enforcement. They'll call us to the scene of suicide, and then the family, if the family's ready for a call out that day, or it could be 2 days later, the school can also refer us. If you have a student or family that you know has experienced a suicide, we can come out to the school. We can send a team here, or if you want to coordinate with the family to come home or to go to their home. And we just really help the family through that moment of crisis, whatever way they need. Each of these calls looks differently. We'll have some that it'll be the day of and they don't know how to make that phone call to family and friends and say, my son died by suicide. Do I tell them it was an accident? Do I tell them what really happened? We always encourage honesty in that, but each family is different with that. So it could look like that. It could be just that they don't have family close, and so we may sit with them for 3 or 4 hours until someone can get there. We provide them a packet of resources that includes funeral homes, support groups, ways to have the conversation, books to read, Teddy Bear Hollow resources, so just a bunch of different things. And again, the law enforcement does not have to make that referral. You guys can do that as well. And I'm going to leave some cards here with that phone number, so it's there. And it's available 24 hours a day as well. The Suicide Prevention Resource Center, sprc.org. This is just another, it has a lot of materials and educational pieces about suicide prevention, a lot of resources available, so I just included that one. And then I wanted to open it up to questions, and please take my contact info as well if you have something that you want to talk about after this training. But we're down to 9 minutes. Sorry, I was trying to time that. I wanted 10 minutes for questions. So any questions from anybody, or things that you're seeing in your schools, or things you've done that you feel like are successful? We always like to hear those. Quiet group. Oh, I thought he had his hand up. All right, well, I do have resources available up here on suicide specific, but also community resources, and then a newsletter sign up if you'd like. We have a newsletter that goes out once a month that highlights organizations focusing on mental health and suicide prevention in the community. So I encourage you to sign up for that. And thank you for having me.